The M16 rifle, officially designated rifle, caliber 5.56 mm, M16, is a United States military adaptation of the Armalite AR-15 rifle. The original M16 was a select-fire, 5.56 x 45 mm rifle with a 20-round magazine. In 1964, the M16 entered American military service and following year was deployed for jungle warfare operations during the Vietnam War. In 1969, the M16A1 replaced the M14 rifle to become the U.S. military standard service rifle. The M16A1 improvements include a bolt assist, chrome-plated bore and a new 30-round magazine. In 1983, the USMC adopted the M16A2 rifle and the U.S. Army adopted it in 1986. The M16A2 fires the improved 5.56 x 45 mm NATO, M855 SS-109, cartridge and has a new adjustable rear sight, case deflector, heavy barrel, improved handguard, pistol grip and buttstock, as well as a semi-auto and 3-round burst-only fire selector. Adopted in 1998, the M16A4 is the fourth generation of the M16 series. It is equipped with a removable carrying handle and Picatinny rail for mounting optics and other ancillary devices. The M16 has also been widely adopted by other militaries around the world. Total worldwide production of M16s has been approximately 8 million. Making it the most produced firearm of its 5.56 mm caliber. The U.S. Army has largely replaced the M16 in combat units with the shorter and lighter M4 carbine, and the U.S. Marine Corps approved a similar change in October 2015. Background. After World War II, the United States military started looking for a single automatic rifle to replace the M1 Garand, M1/M2 carbines, M1918 Browning automatic rifle, M3 grease gun and Thompson submachine gun. However, early experiments with select-fire versions of the M1 Garand proved disappointing. During the Korean War, the select-fire M2 carbine largely replaced the submachine gun in U.S. service and became the most widely used carbine variant. However, combat experience suggested that the .30 carbine round was underpowered. American weapons designers concluded that an intermediate round was necessary, and recommended a small caliber, high-velocity cartridge. However, senior American commanders, having faced fanatical enemies and experienced major logistical problems during World War II and the Korean War, insisted that a single powerful .30 caliber cartridge be developed, that could not only be used by the new automatic rifle, but by the new general-purpose machine gun, GPMG, in concurrent development. This culminated in the development of the 7.62 x 51 mm NATO cartridge and the M14 rifle, which was an improved M1 Garand with a 20-round magazine and automatic fire capability. The U.S. also adopted the M60 general-purpose machine gun, GPMG. Its NATO partners adopted the FN-FAL and HKG-3 rifles, as well as the FN-MEG and Rheinmetall MG3 GPMGs. The first confrontations between the AK-47 and the M14 came in the early part of the Vietnam War. Battlefield reports indicated that the M14 was uncontrollable in full auto and that soldiers could not carry enough ammo to maintain fire superiority over the AK-47. And, while the M2 carbine offered a high rate of fire, it was underpowered and ultimately outclassed by the AK-47. A replacement was needed, a medium between the traditional preference for high-powered rifles such as the M14, and the lighter-weight firepower of the M2 carbine. As a result, the Army was forced to reconsider a 1957 request by General Willard G. Wyman, commander of the U.S. Continental Army Command, CONARC, to develop a .223 caliber, 5.56 mm, select-fire rifle weighing 6 pounds, 2.7 kilograms. When loaded with a 20-round magazine, the 5.56 mm round had to penetrate a standard U.S. helmet at 500 yards, 460 meters, and retain a velocity in excess of the speed of sound, while matching or exceeding the wounding ability of the .30 carbine cartridge. This request ultimately resulted in the development of a scaled-down version of the AR-Malite AR-10, called AR-15 rifle. However, despite overwhelming evidence that the AR-15 could bring more firepower to bear than the M14, the Army opposed the adoption of the new rifle. In January 1963, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara concluded that the AR-15 was the superior weapon system and ordered a halt to M14 production. At the time, the AR-15 was the only rifle available that could fulfill the requirement of a universal infantry weapon for issue to all services. After modifications, most notably, the charging handle was relocated from under the carrying handle like AR-10 to the rear of the receiver. The new redesigned rifle was subsequently adopted as the M16 rifle and went into production in March 1964. The M16 was much lighter compared to the M14 it replaced, ultimately allowing soldiers to carry more ammunition. The air-cooled, gas-operated, magazine-fed assault rifle was made of steel, aluminum alloy and composite plastics, truly cutting-edge for the time. Designed with full and semi-automatic capabilities, the weapon initially did not respond well to wet and dirty conditions, sometimes even jamming in combat. After a few minor modifications, the weapon gained in popularity among troops on the battlefield. Adoption Edit. In July 1960, General Curtis LeMay was impressed by a demonstration of the AR-Malite AR-15. In the summer of 1961, General LeMay was promoted to United States Air Force Chief of Staff, and requested 80,000 AR-15s. However, General Maxwell D. Taylor, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, advised President John F. Kennedy that having two different calibers within the military system at the same time would be problematic, and the request was rejected. 44. In October 1961, William Goodell, a senior man at the Advanced Research Projects Agency, sent AR-15s to South Vietnam. The reception was enthusiastic, and in 1962, another 1,000 AR-15s were sent. United States Army Special Forces personnel filed battlefield reports lavishly praising the AR-15 and the stopping power of the 5.56 mm cartridge, and pressed for its adoption. The damage caused by the 5.56 mm bullet was originally believed to be caused by tumbling due to the slow 1 in 14-inch, 360 mm, rifling twist rate. However, any pointed lead core bullet will tumble after penetration in flesh, because the center of gravity is towards the rear of the bullet. The large wounds observed by soldiers in Vietnam were actually caused by bullet fragmentation, which was created by a combination of the bullet's velocity and construction. These wounds were so devastating, that the photographs remained classified into the 1980s. U.S. Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara now had two conflicting views, the ARPA report favoring the AR-15 and the Army's position favoring the M14. Even President Kennedy expressed concern, so McNamara ordered Secretary of the Army Cyrus Vance to test the M14, the AR-15 and the AK-47. The Army reported that only the M14 was suitable for service, but Vance wondered about the impartiality of those conducting the tests. He ordered the Army Inspector General to investigate the testing methods used. The Inspector General confirmed that the testers were biased towards the M14. In January 1963, Secretary McNamara received reports that M14 production was insufficient to meet the needs of the armed forces and ordered a halt to M14 production. At the time, the AR-15 was the only rifle that could fulfill a requirement of a universal infantry weapon for issue to all services. McNamara ordered its adoption, despite receiving reports of several deficiencies, most notably the lack of a chrome-plated chamber. After modifications, most notably, the charging handle was relocated from under the carrying handle like AR-10 to the rear of the receiver. The new redesigned rifle was renamed the rifle, caliber 5.56 mm, M16. Inexplicably, the modification to the new M16 did not include a chrome-plated barrel. Meanwhile, the Army relented and recommended the adoption of the M16 for jungle warfare operations. However, the Army insisted on the inclusion of a forward assist to help push the bolt into battery in the event that a cartridge failed to seat into the chamber. The Air Force, Colt and Eugene Stoner believed that the addition of a forward assist was an unjustified expense. As a result, the design was split into two variants, the Air Force's M16 without the forward assist, and the XM16E1 with the forward assist for the other service branches. In November 1963, McNamara approved the U.S. Army's order of 85,000 XM16E1s, and to appease General LeMay, the Air Force was granted an order for another 19,000 M16s. In March 1964, M16 rifle went into production and the Army accepted delivery of the first batch of 2,129 rifles later that year, and an additional 57,240 rifles the following year. A U.S. soldier cleans his XM16E1 during the Vietnam War in 1966. In 1964, the Army was informed that DuPont could not mass-produce the IMR 4475 stick powder to the specifications demanded by the M16. Therefore, Olin Matthys and Company provided a high-performance ball propellant. While the Olin WC846 powder achieved the desired 3,300 feet, 1,000 meters, per second muzzle velocity, it produced much more fouling, that quickly jammed the M16's action, unless the rifle was cleaned well and often. Front cover, the M16A1 rifle, Operation and Preventive Maintenance by Will Eisner. In March 1965, the Army began to issue the XM16E1 to infantry units. However, the rifle was initially delivered without adequate cleaning kits or instructions because Colt had claimed the M16 was self-cleaning. As a result, reports of stoppages in combat began to surface. The most severe problem was known as failure to extract the spent cartridge case remained lodged in the chamber after the rifle was fired. 3552 Documented accounts of dead U.S. troops found next to disassembled rifles eventually led to a congressional investigation. We left with 72 men in our platoon and came back with 19, believe it or not. You know what killed most of us? Our own rifle. Practically every one of our dead was found with his M16 torn down next to him where he had been trying to fix it. Marine Corps Rifleman, Vietnam. In February 1967, the improved XM16E1 was standardized as the M16A1. The new rifle had a chrome-plated chamber and bore to eliminate corrosion and stuck cartridges and other, minor, modifications. 35. New cleaning kits, powder solvents and lubricants were also issued. Intensive training programs in weapons cleaning were instituted, including a comic book-style operations manual. As a result, reliability problems diminished and the M16A1 rifle achieved widespread acceptance by U.S. troops in Vietnam. In 1969, the M16A1 officially replaced the M14 rifle to become the U.S. military standard service rifle. 1314. In 1970, the new WC844 powder was introduced to reduce fouling. Reliability. During the early part of its career, the M16 had a reputation for poor reliability and a malfunction rate of 2 per 1,000 rounds fired. The M16 uses a unique gas-powered operating system. This gas operating system works by passing high-pressure propellant gases tapped from the barrel down a tube and into the carrier group within the upper receiver, and is commonly but incorrectly referred to as a direct impingement gas system. The gas expands within a donut-shaped gas cylinder within the carrier. Because the bolt is prevented from moving forward by the barrel, the carrier is driven to the rear by the expanding gases and thus converts the energy of the gas to movement of the rifle's parts. The bolt bears a piston head and the cavity in the bolt carrier is the piston sleeve. It is more correct to call it an internal piston system. This design is much lighter and more compact than a gas piston design. However, this design requires that combustion byproducts from the discharged cartridge be blown into the receiver as well. This accumulating carbon and vaporized metal buildup within the receiver and bolt carrier negatively affects reliability and necessitates more intensive maintenance on the part of the individual soldier. The channeling of gases into the bolt carrier during operation increases the amount of heat that is deposited in the receiver while firing the M16 and causes essential lubricant to be burned off. This requires frequent and generous applications of appropriate lubricant. Lack of proper lubrication is the most common source of weapon stoppages or jams. The original M16 fared poorly in the jungles of Vietnam and was infamous for reliability problems in the harsh environment. As a result, it became the target of a congressional investigation. The investigation found that the M16 was billed as self-cleaning, when no weapon is or ever has been. The M16 was issued to troops without cleaning kits or instruction on how to clean the rifle. The M16 and 5.56 x 45 mm cartridge was tested and approved with the use of a DuPont M8208M stick powder, that was switched to Oleanmethesen WC846 ball powder, which produced much more fouling, that quickly jammed the action of the M16, unless the gun was cleaned well and often. The M16 lacked a forward assist, rendering the rifle inoperable when it jammed. The M16 lacked a chrome-plated chamber, which allowed corrosion problems and contributed to case extraction failures. This was considered the most severe problem and required extreme measures to clear, such as inserting the cleaning rod down the barrel and knocking the spent cartridge out. When these issues were addressed and corrected by the M16A1, the reliability problems decreased greatly. According to a 1968 Department of Army report, the M16A1 rifle achieved widespread acceptance by U.S. troops in Vietnam. 43. Most men armed with the M16 in Vietnam rated this rifle's performance high. However, many men entertained some misgivings about the M16's reliability. When asked what weapon they preferred to carry in combat, 85% indicated that they wanted either the M16 or its submachine gun, smaller version, the XM177E2. Also, the M14 was preferred by 15%, while less than 1% wished to carry either the Stoner rifle, the AK-47, the carbine or a pistol. In March 1970, the President's Blue Ribbon Defense Panel concluded that the issuance of the M16 saved the lives of 20,000 U.S. servicemen during the Vietnam War, who would have otherwise died had the M14 remained in service. However, the M16 rifle's reputation continues to suffer. After the introduction of the M4 carbine, it was found that the shorter barrel length of 14.5 inches also has a negative effect on reliability, as the gas port is located closer to the chamber than the gas port of the standard length M16 rifle, 7.5 inches instead of 13 inches. This affects the M4's timing and increases the amount of stress and heat on the critical components, thereby reducing reliability. In a 2002 assessment, the USMC found that the M4 malfunctioned 3 times more often than the M16A4. The M4 failed 186 times for 69,000 rounds fired, while the M16A4 failed 61 times. Thereafter, the Army and Colt worked to make modifications to the M4S and M16A4S in order to address the problems found. In tests conducted in 2005 and 2006, the Army found that on average, the new M4S and M16S fired approximately 5,000 rounds between stoppages. In December 2006, the Center for Naval Analysis, CNA, released a report on U.S. small arms in combat. The CNA conducted surveys on 2,608 troops returning from combat in Iraq and Afghanistan over the past 12 months. Only troops who fired their weapons at enemy targets were allowed to participate. 1,188 troops were armed with M16 A2 or A4 rifles, making up 46% of the survey. 75% of M16 users, 891 troops, reported they were satisfied with the weapon. 60%, 713 troops, were satisfied with handling qualities such as handguards, size, and weight. Of the 40% dissatisfied, most were with its size. Only 19% of M16 users, 226 troops, reported a stoppage, while 80% of those that experienced a stoppage said it had little impact on their ability to clear the stoppage and re-engage their target. Half of the M16 users never experienced failures of their magazines to feed. 83%, 986 troops, did not need their rifles repaired while in theater. 71%, 843 troops, were confident in the M16's reliability, defined as level of soldier confidence their weapon will fire without malfunction, and 72%, 855 troops, were confident in its durability, defined as level of soldier confidence their weapon will not break or need repair. Both factors were attributed to high levels of soldiers performing their own maintenance. 60% of M16 users offered recommendations for improvements. Requests included greater bullet lethality, new built rifles instead of rebuilt, better quality magazines, decreased weight, and a collapsible stock. Some users recommended shorter and lighter weapons such as M4 carbine. Some issues have been addressed with the issuing of the improved STANAG magazine in March 2009, and the M855A1 Enhanced Performance round in June 2010. In early 2010, two journalists from the New York Times spent 3 months with soldiers and Marines in Afghanistan. While there, they questioned around 100 infantry troops about the reliability of their M16 rifles, as well as the M4 carbine. The troops did not report reliability problems with their rifles. While only 100 troops were asked, they engaged in daily fighting in Maria, including least a dozen intense engagements in Helmand Province, where the ground is covered in fine powdered sand, called moon dust by troops, that can stick to firearms. Weapons were often dusty, wet, and covered in mud. Intense firefights lasted hours with several magazines being expended. Only one soldier reported a jam when his M16 was covered in mud after climbing out of a canal. The weapon was cleared and resumed firing with the next chambered round. Furthermore, the Marine Chief Warrant Officer responsible for weapons training and performance of the 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines, reported that "We've had nil in the way of problems, we've had no issues." With his battalion's 350 M16s and 700 M4s. NATO standards. German Army soldiers of the 13th Panzergrenadier Division qualify with the M16A2 at Würzburg, as part of a partnership range with the U.S. 1st Infantry Division. In March 1970, the U.S. recommended that all NATO forces adopt the 5.56 x 45 mm cartridge. 71. This shift represented a change in the philosophy of the military's long-held position about caliber size. By the mid-1970s, other armies were looking at M16-style weapons. A NATO standardization effort soon started and tests of various rounds were carried out starting in 1977. 71. The U.S. offered the 5.56 x 45 mm M193 round, but there were concerns about its penetration in the face of the wider introduction of body armor. 21. In the end, the Belgian 5.56 x 45 mm SS-109 round was chosen, STANAG 4172, in October 1980. 71. The SS-109 round was based on the U.S. cartridge but included a new stronger, heavier, 62-grain bullet design, with better long-range performance and improved penetration, specifically, to consistently penetrate the side of a steel helmet at 600 meters. 21. Due to its design and lower muzzle velocity, about 3,110 feet/S-72, The Belgian SS-109 round is considered more humane because it is less likely to fragment than the US M193 round. 73. The NATO 5.56 x 45 mm standard ammunition produced for U.S. forces is designated M855. In October 1980, shortly after NATO accepted the 5.56 x 45 mm NATO rifle cartridge. 74. Draft Standardization Agreement 4179, STANAG 4179, was proposed to allow NATO members to easily share rifle ammunition and magazines down to the individual soldier level. The magazine chosen to become the STANAG magazine was originally designed for the US M16 rifle. Many NATO member nations, but not all, subsequently developed or purchased rifles with the ability to accept this type of magazine. However, the standard was never ratified and remains a draft STANAG. 75. The NATO accessory rail STANAG 4694, or Picatinny rail STANAG 2324, or a tactical rail is a bracket used on M16 type rifles to provide a standardized mounting platform. The rail comprises a series of ridges with a T-shaped cross-section interspersed with flat spacing slots. Scopes are mounted either by sliding them on from one end or the other, by means of a rail grabber which is clamped to the rail with bolts, thumb screws or levers, or onto the slots between the raised sections. The rail was originally for scopes. However, once established, the use of the system was expanded to other accessories, such as tactical lights, laser aiming modules, night vision devices, reflexed sights, foregrips, bipods, and bayonets. Currently, the M16 is in use by 15 NATO countries and more than 80 countries worldwide. Design. Top drawing is of an A2 style rifle, bottom drawing is of an A2 style rifle with A1 rear sights, as with the C7. The M16 is a lightweight, 5.56 mm, air-cooled, gas-operated, magazine-fed assault rifle, with a rotating bolt. The M16's receivers are made of 7075 aluminum alloy, its barrel, bolt, and bolt carrier of steel, and its handguards, pistol grip, and buttstock of plastics. The M16A1 was especially lightweight at 7.9 pounds, 3.6 kilograms, with a loaded 30-round magazine. This was significantly less than the M14 that it replaced at 10.7 pounds, 4.9 kilograms, with a loaded 20-round magazine. It is also lighter when compared to the AKM's 8.3 pounds, 3.8 kilograms, with a loaded 30-round magazine. The M16A2 weighs 8.8 pounds, 4.0 kilograms, loaded with a 30-round magazine. 79, because of the adoption of a thicker barrel profile. The thicker barrel is more resistant to damage when handled roughly and is also slower to overheat during sustained fire. Unlike a traditional bull barrel that is thick its entire length, the M16A2's barrel is only thick forward of the handguards. The barrel profile under the handguards remained the same as the M16A1 for compatibility with the M203 grenade launcher. Barrel. Early model M16 barrels had a rifling twist of 4 grooves, right-hand twist, 1 turn in 14 inches, 1, 355.6 mm, bore, as it was the same rifling used by the .222 Remington sporting round. This was shown to make the light .223 Remington bullet yaw in flight at long ranges, and it was soon replaced. Later models had an improved rifling with 6 grooves, right-hand twist, 1 turn in 12 inches, 1, 304.8 mm, for increased accuracy and was optimized for use with the standard US M193 cartridge. Current models are optimized for the heavier NATO SS-109 bullet and have 6 grooves, right-hand twist, 1 turn in 7 in, 1, 177.8 mm. Weapons designed to accept both the M193 or SS-109 rounds, like civilian market clones, have a 6-groove, right-hand twist, 1 turn in 9 inches, 1, 228.6 millimeters, bore. Recoil. The M16's stoner system provides a very symmetric design that allows straight-line movement of the operating components. This allows recoil forces to drive straight to the rear. Instead of connecting or other mechanical parts driving the system, high-pressure gas performs this function, reducing the weight of moving parts and the rifle as a whole. 59. The M16's straight-line recoil design, where the recoil spring is located in the stock directly behind the action, 84, and serves the dual function of operating spring and recoil buffer. The stock being in line with the bore also reduces muzzle rise, especially during automatic fire. Because recoil does not significantly shift the point of aim, faster follow-up shots are possible and user fatigue is reduced. Also, current model M16 flash suppressors also act as compensators to reduce recoil further. Free recoil. M16. Momentum 40.4 feet to pound. Velocity 5.1 fps. Energy 3.2 feet to pounds. Notes: free recoil is mathematical equation calculated by using the rifle weight, bullet weight, muzzle velocity and charge weight. 86. It is that which would be measured if the rifle were fired suspended from strings, free to recoil. 86. As mentioned above, a rifle's perceived recoil is also dependent on many other factors which are not readily quantified. Sights. The M16's most distinctive ergonomic feature is the carrying handle and rear sight assembly on top of the receiver. This is a byproduct of the original design, where the carry handle served to protect the charging handle. As the line of sight is 2.5 in, 63.5 mm, over the bore, the M16 has an inherent parallax problem. At closer ranges, typically inside 15 to 20 meters, the shooter must aim high in order to place shots where desired. The M16 has a 500 mm, 19.75 inches, sight radius. The M16 uses an L-type flip aperture rear sight and it is adjustable with two settings, 0 to 300 meters and 300 to 400 meters. The front sight is a post adjustable for elevation in the field. The rear sight can be adjusted in the field for windage. The sights can be adjusted with a bullet tip and soldiers are trained to zero their own rifles. The sight picture is the same as the M14, M1 Garand, M1 Carbine and the M1917 Enfield. The M16 also has a low light level sight system, which includes a front sight post with a small glass vial of glow-in-the-dark, radioactive tritium H3 and a larger aperture rear sight. 89. The M16 can also mount a scope on the carrying handle. With the advent of the M16A2, a new fully adjustable rear sight was added, allowing the rear sight to be dialed in for specific range settings between 300 and 800 meters and to allow windage adjustments without the need of a tool or cartridge. Modern versions such as M16A4 use Picatinny rails, which allows the use of various scopes and sighting devices. The current United States Army and Air Force issue M4 carbine comes with the M68 close combat optic and backup iron sight. The United States Marine Corps uses the ACOG rifle combat optic 93-94, and the United States Navy uses EOTech holographic weapon sight. Range and accuracy. The M16 has always enjoyed a reputation for excellent accuracy. Its light recoil, high velocity and flat trajectory allow shooters to take headshots out to 300 meters. Newer M16s use the newer M855 cartridge, increasing their effective range to 600 meters. They are also more accurate than their predecessors and are capable of shooting 1 to 3 inch groups at 100 yards. In Fallujah, Marines with a COG-equipped M16A4s created a stir by taking so many headshots that until the wounds were closely examined, some observers thought the insurgents had been executed. The newest M855A1 EPR cartridge is even more accurate and during testing has shown that, on average, 95% of the rounds will hit within an 8 by 8 inch target at 600 meters. NATO E-type silhouette target. Single shot hit probability on crouching man, NATO E-type silhouette, target 110. Rifle chambering hit probability, with no range estimation or aiming errors, 800 meters. Terminal ballistics. The 5.56 x 45 mm cartridge had several advantages over the 7.62 x 51 mm NATO round used in the M14 rifle. It enabled each soldier to carry more ammunition and was easier to control during automatic or burst fire. The 5.56 x 45 mm NATO cartridge can also produce massive wounding effects when the bullet impacts at high speed and yaws, tumbles, in tissue, leading to fragmentation and rapid transfer of energy. The original ammunition for the M16 was the 55-grain M193 cartridge. When fired from a 20 inches barrel at ranges of up to 100 meters, the thin-jacketed lead-cord round traveled fast enough, above 2,900 feet/s, that the force of striking a human body would cause the round to yaw, or tumble, and fragment into about a dozen pieces of various sizes, thus created wounds that were out of proportion to its caliber. These wounds were so devastating that many considered the M16 to be an inhumane weapon. As the 5.56 mm round's velocity decreases, so does the number of fragments that it produces. The 5.56 mm round does not normally fragment at distances beyond 200 meters or at velocities below 2,500 feet/s, and its lethality becomes largely dependent on shot placement. With the development of the M16A2, the new 62-grain M855 cartridge was adopted in 1983. The heavier bullet had more energy, and was made with a steel core to penetrate Soviet body armor. However, this caused less fragmentation on impact and reduced effects against targets without armor, both of which lessened kinetic energy transfer and wounding ability. Some soldiers and Marines coped with this through training, with requirements to shoot vital areas 3 times to guarantee killing the target. However, there have been repeated and consistent reports of the M855's inability to wound effectively, that is fragment, when fired from the short-barreled M4 carbine, even at close ranges. The M4's 14.5 inches barrel length reduces muzzle velocity to about 2,900 feet/s. This reduced wounding ability is one reason that, despite the Army's transition to short-barrel M4s, the Marine Corps has decided to continue using the M16A4 with its 20 inches barrel, as the 5.56 x 45 mm M855 is largely dependent upon high velocity in order to wound effectively. Magazines. Vietnam-era 20-round magazine, left, and current issue NATO Stanag 30-round magazine, right. The M16's magazine was meant to be a lightweight, disposable item. As such, it is made of pressed, stamped aluminum and was not designed to be durable. The M16 originally used a 20-round magazine, which was later replaced by a bent 30-round design. As a result, the magazine follower tends to rock or tilt, causing malfunctions. Many non-US and commercial magazines have been developed to effectively mitigate these shortcomings. For example, H&K's all-stainless steel magazine, Magpul's polymer PMag, etc. Muzzle devices. Most M16 rifles have a barrel threaded in half-28 threads to incorporate the use of a muzzle device such as a flash suppressor or sound suppressor. The initial flash suppressor design had 3 tines or prongs and was designed to preserve the shooter's night vision by disrupting the flash. Unfortunately, it was prone to breakage and getting entangled in vegetation. The design was later changed to close the end to avoid this and became known as the A1 or birdcage flash suppressor on the M16A1. Eventually, on the M16A2 version of the rifle, the bottom port was closed to reduce muzzle climb and prevent dust from rising when the rifle was fired in the prone position. For these reasons, The U.S. military declared the A2 flash suppressor as a compensator or a muzzle brake, but it is more commonly known as the GI or A2 flash suppressor. USMC M16A2S with the OKC-3S bayonet. Bipod. The M16 and M16A1 were able to use the XM3 bipod. The XM3 bipod was a lightweight non-adjustable support that clamped onto the barrel of the M16 rifle for more accurate firing. The design did not see full-scale use and was scrapped shortly after the Vietnam War. Variants. For more details on M16 variants, see AR-15 variants. Pre-production Armalite AR-15. The weapon that eventually became the M16 series was basically a scaled-down AR-10 with an ambidextrous charging handle located within the carrying handle, a narrower front sight frame, and no flash suppressor. AR-15, Colt Models 601 and 602. Main article, AR-15. Colt's first two models produced after the acquisition of the rifle from Armalite were the 601 and 602, and these rifles were in many ways clones of the original Armalite rifle. In fact, these rifles were often found stamped Colt Armalite AR-15, property of the U.S. government caliber .223, with no reference to them being M16s. The 601 and 602 are easily identified by their flat lower receivers without raised surfaces around the magazine well and occasionally green or brown furniture. The 601 was adopted first of any of the rifles by the USAF, and was quickly supplemented with the XM16, Colt Model 602, and later the M16, Colt Model 604, as improvements were made. There was also a limited purchase of 602s, and a number of both of these rifles found their way to a number of special operations units then operating in Southeast Asia, most notably the U.S. Navy SEALs. The only major difference between the 601 and 602 is the switch from the original 1:14-inch rifling twist to the more common 1:12-inch twist. These weapons were equipped with a triangular charging handle and a bolt hold-open device that lacked a raised lower engagement surface. The bolt hold-open device had a slanted and serrated surface that had to be engaged with a bare thumb, index finger, or thumbnail because of the lack of this surface. The United States Air Force continued to use the AR-15 marked rifles in various configurations into the 1990s. M16. XM16E1 and M16A1, Colt Model 603. An early M16 rifle, note duckbill flash suppressor, triangular grip, forward assist, and the lack of brass deflector. The U.S. Army XM16E1 was essentially the same weapon as the M16 with the addition of a forward assist and corresponding notches in the bolt carrier. The M16A1 was the finalized production model in 1967. M16A2. New rear sight, brass deflector and forward assist of M16A2. A U.S. Marine with an M16A2 on a training exercise at Camp Bahria, Iraq, 2004. The development of the M16A2 rifle was originally requested by the United States Marine Corps as a result of the USMC's combat experience in Vietnam with the XM16E1 and M16A1. It was officially adopted by U.S. Department of Defense as the U.S. Rifle, 5.56 mm, M16A2 in 1982. The Marines were the first branch of the U.S. Armed Forces to adopt the M16A2 in the early/mid-1980s, with the United States Army following suit in the late 1980s. Modifications to the M16A2 were extensive. In addition to the new rifling, the barrel was made with a greater thickness in front of the front sight post, to resist bending in the field and to allow a longer period of sustained fire without overheating. The rest of the barrel was maintained at the original thickness to enable the M203 grenade launcher to be attached. A new adjustable rear sight was added, allowing the rear sight to be dialed in for specific range settings between 300 and 800 meters to take full advantage of the ballistic characteristics of the new SS-109 rounds and to allow windage adjustments without the need of a tool or cartridge. 154. The weapon's reliability allowed it to be widely used around the United States Marine Corps Special Operations divisions as well. The flash suppressor was again modified, this time to be closed on the bottom so it would not kick up dirt or snow when being fired from the prone position, and acting as a recoil compensator. The front grip was modified from the original triangular shape to a round one, which better fit smaller hands and could be fitted to older models of the M16. The new handguards were also symmetrical so that armories need not separate left and right spares. The handguard retention ring was tapered to make it easier to install and uninstall the handguards. A notch for the middle finger was added to the pistol grip, as well as more texture to enhance the grip. The buttstock was lengthened by 5/8 in 15.9 mm. The new buttstock became 10 times stronger than the original due to advances in polymer technology since the early 1960s. Original M16 stocks were made from fiberglass impregnated resin. The newer stocks were engineered from DuPont Zytel glass-filled thermoset polymers. The new stock included a fully textured polymer buttplate for better grip on the shoulder, and retained a panel for accessing a small compartment inside the stock, often used for storing a basic cleaning kit. The heavier bullet reduces muzzle velocity from 3,200 feet per second, 980 meters per second, to about 3,050 feet per second, 930 meters per second. The A2 uses a faster twist rifling to allow the use of a trajectory-matched tracer round. It has a 1-to-7 twist rate. A spent case deflector was incorporated into the upper receiver immediately behind the ejection port to prevent cases from striking left-handed users. M16A3. The M16A3 is a modified version of the M16A2 adopted in small numbers by the U.S. Navy SEAL, Seabee, and security units. 159. It features the M16A1 trigger group providing safe, semi-automatic, and fully automatic modes instead of the A2's safe, semi-automatic, and burst. M16A4. United States Marine Corps M16A4 rifle with Picatinny reel and foregrip. The M16A4 is the fourth generation of the M16 series. It is equipped with a removable carrying handle and a full-length quad Picatinny rail for mounting optics and other ancillary devices. The FN M16A4, using safe/semi/burst selective fire, became standard issue for the U.S. Marine Corps and is the current issue to Marine Corps recruits in both MCRD San Diego and MCRD Parris Island. Military issue rifles are also equipped with a Knights Armament Company AM5 RAS handguard, allowing vertical grips, lasers, tactical lights, and other accessories to be attached, coining the designation M16A4 MWS, or Modular Weapon System, in U.S. Army field manuals. Colt also produces M16A4 models for international purchases, with specific selective fire. R0901, INSN 1005013832, 2872, safe/semi/auto. R0905, safe/semi/burst. In 2014, Marine units were provided with a limited number of adjustable stocks in place of the traditional fixed stock for their M16A4s to issue to smaller Marines that would have trouble comfortably reaching the trigger when wearing body armor. The adjustable stocks were added as a standard authorized accessory, meaning units can use operations and maintenance funds to purchase more if needed. The Marine Corps had long maintained the full-length M16 as their standard infantry rifle, but in October 2015 the switch to the M4 carbine was approved as the standard issue weapon, giving Marine infantrymen a smaller and more compact weapon. Enough M4s are already in the inventory to re-equip all necessary units by September 2016, and M16A4S will be moved to support and non-infantry Marines. A United States Air Force Go-5/A carbine. I. Colt Model 733. Colt also returned to the original commando idea, with its Model 733, essentially a modernized XM177E2 with many of the features introduced on the M16A2. M231 Firing Port Weapon, FPW. M231 FPW. M231 Firing Port Weapon, FPW, is an adapted version of the M16 assault rifle for firing from ports on the M2 Bradley. The infantry's normal M16s are too long for use in a buttoned-up fighting vehicle, so the FPW was developed to provide a suitable weapon for this role. Designed by the Rock Island Arsenal, the M231 FPW remains in service, although all but the rear two firing ports on the Bradley have been removed. The M231 FPW fires from the open bolt and is only configured for fully automatic fire. The open bolt configuration gives the M231 a much higher cyclic rate of fire than the closed bolt operation of the M16A1. Official doctrine discourages deploying M231 outside of the firing port role. The weapon jams easily and is known to break the bolt without warning. Mk4 Mod 0. Mark 12. M4 Carbine. Main article, M4 Carbine. Heckler & Koch HK416 Edit. Main article, Heckler & Koch HK416. The Heckler & Koch HK416 is an assault rifle designed and manufactured by Heckler & Koch. It is based on the M16 platform, and was originally conceived as an improvement based on the Colt M4 carbine family issued to the U.S. military, with the notable inclusion of an HK proprietary short-stroke gas piston system derived from the Heckler & Koch G36. The HK416 was used by United States Navy SEALs to kill Osama bin Laden. Dymaco C7 and C8. Main article, Colt Canada C7 rifle. Canadian Forces Reserve infantrymen train in urban operations with C7 and C8 rifles. The C7 has been developed to the C7A1, with a weaver rail on the upper receiver for a C79 optical sight, and to the C7A2, with different furniture and internal improvements. The Dymaco-produced weaver rail on the original C7A1 variants does not meet the M1913 Picatinny standard, leading to some problems with mounting commercial sights. This is easily remedied with minor modification to the upper receiver or the sight itself. Since Dymaco's acquisition by Colt to form Colt Canada, all Canadian-produced flat-top upper receivers are machined to the M1913 standard. The C8 is the carbine version of the C7. 167. The C7 and C8 are also used by Hæren's Jegerkommando, Marine-Jegerkommando and FSK, Norway, Military of Denmark, all branches, the Royal Netherlands Army and Netherlands Marine Corps as its main infantry weapon. Following trials, variants became the weapon of choice of the British SAS. Others. The Chinese Norinco CQ is an unlicensed derivative of the M16A1 made specifically for export, with the most obvious external differences being in its handguard and revolver-style pistol grip. The Armada rifle, a copy of the Norinco CQ, and Trailblazer carbine, a copy of the Norinco CQ Type A, are manufactured by SAM-Shooters Arms Manufacturing, aka Shooters Arms Guns and Ammo Corporation, headquartered in Metro Cebu, Republic of the Philippines. The S5.56 rifle, a clone of the Type CQ, is manufactured by the Defense Industries Organization of Iran. The rifle itself is offered in two variants, the S5.56A1 with a 19.9-inch barrel and 112-pitch rifling, one turn in 305 mm, optimized for the use of the M193 ball cartridge, and the S5.56A3 with a 20-inch barrel and a 1-to-7 pitch rifling, one turn in 177, 8 mm, optimized for the use of the SS-109 cartridge. 168. The KH-2002 is an Iranian bullpup conversion of the locally produced S5.56 rifle. Iran intends to replace the standard issue weapon of its armed forces with this rifle. The Tarab rifle is a copy of the DOS 5.56 manufactured by the MIC, Military Industry Corporation, of Sudan. The M16S1 is the M16A1 rifle made under license by ST Kinetics in Singapore. It was the standard issue weapon of the Singapore Armed Forces. It is being replaced by the newer SAR-21 in most branches. It is, in the meantime, the standard issue weapon in the reserve forces. The MSSR rifle developed as an effective, low-cost sniper rifle by the Philippine Marine Corps Scout Snipers. The Special Operations Assault Rifle, SOAR, assault carbine was developed by Furfrans based on the M16 rifle. It is used by the Special Action Force of the Philippine National Police. Taiwan uses piston-driven M16-based weapons as their standard rifle. These include the T-65, T-86 and T-91 assault rifles. Production and users edit. Worldwide users of the M16, former and current. Users. Canadian soldiers patrol Kandahar, Afghanistan armed with C7, M16 type, rifles. Female soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces in training with M16A2 rifles. Malaysian Army soldier with an M16A1 equipped with an M203 grenade launcher during a Karat Malaysia 2008. Monegasque carabiner with M16 rifle. Philippine Marines using M16A1 rifles with M16A2 handguard during a military exercise. Republic of Korea Honor Guard toss bayonet-mounted M16 rifles into the air at the celebration ceremony for the 65th anniversary of ROC Armed Forces. Vietnamese Army, ARVN, Rangers armed with M16s defend Saigon during the Tet Offensive. U.S. Marine firing an M16A4 equipped with an ACOG. Afghanistan, standard issue rifle of the Afghan National Army. 169, Colt Canada C7 variants also saw limited service. Argentina, Special Forces used the M16A1 in the Falklands, Malvinas, War and they currently use the M16A2, by all armed forces. 170. Australia. Bahrain. Bosnia. Bangladesh. Barbados. Belize. Bolivia. Brazil. Brunei. Cambodia. Cameroon. Canada, C7 and C8 variants made by Colt Canada is used by the Canadian Forces. Chile. Costa Rica. Democratic Republic of the Congo. Denmark, C7 and C8 variants made by Colt Canada are used by all branches of the Danish defense. Dominican Republic. East Timor. Ecuador. El Salvador M16A1/A2/A3/A4 is used. Estonia ex-US M16A1S. Fiji. France used by the French Foreign Legion. Gabon. Ghana. Greece M16A2/M4 is used by the Special Forces of the Hellenic Army ISAF forces in Afghanistan and the Hellenic Navy. Grenada. Guatemala M16A1/M16A2. Haiti. Honduras. India. Indonesia. Iraq, used by Iraqi Army. Israel being replaced by Imitaver. Jamaica. Jordan. North Korea, M16A1, probably unlicensed copies, used by Special Forces. Used during the Gangnam incident in 1996. South Korea, during the Vietnam War, the U.S. provided 27,000 M16 rifles to the Republic of Korea Armed Forces in Vietnam. Also, 600,000 M16A1S, Colt Model 603K, were manufactured under license by Daewoo Precision Industries. The delivery started in 1974 and ended in 1985. Still CADASA, Korean augmentation to the United States Army. Soldiers who serve in the United States Army uses M16A2. Kuwait, Lebanon, Lesotho, Liberia, Lithuania, Lithuanian Armed Forces, Malaysia, Malaysian Armed Forces, Royal Malaysian Police, Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency and Relay Corps. Mauritius, Mexico, M16A2/A4 used by Mexican Marines in the Mexican Drug War. Monaco, Compagnie des Carabiniers du Prince. Morocco, Nepal, Netherlands. C7 and C8 variants are used by the military of the Netherlands and LSW is used by Netherlands Marine Corps. New Zealand M16, replaced in 1988 by Styroggist being replaced as of 2016 with a non-Colt variant of the M16. Nicaragua, Nigeria, Oman, Pakistan, Panama M16A1, Peru, Philippines, manufactured under license by Elisco Tool and Manufacturing. 173, M16A1S and M653PS in use. Supplemented in Special Forces by the M4 carbine. Qatar, Rhodesia, M16A1. Senegal, Singapore, local variant of the M16A1, M16S1. Manufactured under license by ST Kinetics. Somalia 173. South Africa 173. Sri Lanka 175. South Vietnam, 6,000 M16 and 938,000 M16A1. Sweden. A small number of M16A2s are used by the Swedish Armed Forces for familiarization training, as well as a similar number of AKMs, but they are not issued to combat units. C8 used by Special Forces. Taiwan, Thailand M16A1/A2/A4. Tunisia M16A2/A4. Turkey M16A1/A2/A4. Uganda, United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom, the Colt Canada C8, L119A1/L119A2, variant is used by Royal Military Police Close Protection Units, 200, the Pathfinder Group, United Kingdom Special Forces 201, and 43 Commando Fleet Protection Group Royal Marines. United States, Uruguay,